It's time to go beyond the headlines, cause I don't put in overtime just so I can headline, okay. Now it's Fox Sports, I'm live with Renee. Going hard every day, sports rapping every play. Different segments for your favorites, coming at you daily. With positive vibes, yeah, we some game changers. Basketball, football, soccer, with different interviews, you never know who may pop up. Listen, only on Beyond the Headlines, this is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines, this is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines, this is Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington.
This week on our Positive Vibes Only segment here on Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington, from Poughkeepsie, New York, we've got Professor Johanna Sophia. She's the CEO of Johanna's Raw Foods and Coaching. So, Professor, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm just Johanna to you, as we know. I'm only 66 and only just beginning.
Oh, I love that. Yes, that's such a great outlook. Age is just a number. You're just hitting you haven't even peaked yet. And especially since you're doing so many great things to make others aware of healthy eating that tastes good. And I think a lot of times when we think about, the fine dishes that you can have that are healthy, desserts, meals, whatever it may be, that you have to sacrifice one or the other. But you are changing that with your delicious grab-and-go raw vegan product line. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, you see, I was always a gourmet eater. Now, when you've been in entertainment and, acting in movies, etc., you go to the fancy restaurants and you eat all the fancy food after the show. And having lived in Europe and in Paris and been to Italy a lot, so fine foods was always my thing. So when I had a stroke 17 years ago and I keeled over and was like very close to death, and I said to myself, no, I can't do that. I got to get back into this body. I got to be here for my children, and I got to keep this body as healthy as possible. So when I came to and came back, I decided I'm going to eat the healthiest stuff possible, but I'm going to make it taste like what I love. So that's how that happened. And because I'm a very creative person per se, I started inventing the dishes that I loved so much in the raw. So I made pizza in the raw and cakes. I have a beautiful ganache chocolate cake. And I have, everything, you name it, I've probably made it in the raw. And then I made restaurant food for a fancy restaurant near Saratoga Springs for a couple of years. So every time we had a raw dinner, I invented a whole lot of a 4-course meal, a whole lot of dishes and sauces and soups and stuffed mushrooms and sauerkraut with sauerbraten, and everything was made out of raw ingredients. So it's kind of, it's kind of crazy, but it's true. It's my story.
Yeah, and your story is incredible because, as you mentioned, with having your stroke 17 years ago, not only did you have a stroke, but you were conscious of that. And
it's the bizarrest thing. Now, if you've ever done deep meditation or deep relaxation or something like that, you've sort of had a slight out-of-body experience. But and I think we have that actually in exhilaration in sports as well. You must have come across that. Mm-hmm. When I couldn't move. In fact, my mouth was wide open and I couldn't shut it. And I just couldn't move my body at all. But I was yelling at my body, get back in there, shut that mouth. And that was the experience. And it took a whole while, probably like 10 minutes when I got back into moving it again. So yeah, it was like an out-of-body experience, but it was also very real and very biological, because biologically the brain gets stuck somewhere because the blood flow doesn't proceed. And then, it all has to start over when you're coming back.
Yeah. Wow. And that's something that a lot of people talk about, making changes in their life. You had a near-death experience that was the ultimate wake-up call that, look, I need to get back in my body. I need to get into doing what's right for me to live a nice, long, healthy life. you ran a marathon, you changed your eating habits, you founded your company. I mean, what really took you, I mean, aside from your, of course, near-death experience, but what really helped you make that push to get started? Because I feel like a lot of people struggle with getting started. Like, we can sit and dream, but it's hard to actually put that into action. So for you, what was that first step, and that kind of helped move you towards where you are today?
Well, nobody can do it alone. That's the first thing. So I was immediately looking for books and radio shows. There was a lady on the radio show. She talked about how raw foods can heal you, but she was eating things just as they are, a whole carrot, even a cabbage, and I said, that's not for me. I got to start mixing things up. But also, I did not go 100% right away. I looked for books, and I found Victoria Butenko's book, Raw Family, and how she had healed her son from diabetes and her daughter from asthma and herself from severe obesity. So, I got all these bits and pieces of information, and then the science to it. So I researched a lot. This was in the beginning of the internet, kind of, where you could just go and find out at least a little bit of something. And books were there. So I experimented a lot. And like I said, I wasn't like jumping in the deep end. I still ate a little bit of steamed vegetables. And then I made more and more mixes of raw foods. And the big breakthrough came with my blueberry chocolate mousse, which is still the runner. So it's fruits and nuts and raw cacao. And because they're dried fruits in there, it's very sweet, and you can add some vanilla, and you can use different dried fruits, fresh fruits and nuts, and and some coconut oil to make it really creamy. So I'm in fact, I was just eating one before we got on the show. So these chocolate mousses have something very luxurious, but also something very nutritious. And I think that was my breakthrough. Okay, I can have a luxurious life with mostly raw food. And I also have to say, I'm not 100% always raw. I eat a couple of bites when my kids cook. My kids cook a lot of vegan food. And yeah, of course, they're just as much into the delicious as I am.
Okay, I like that. And that's a good point you make. You didn't just jump right into the deep end. It wasn't just the very next day when you were healthy again and back up on your feet that you hit the ground running. It took time, it took support, it took encouragement from others as well. So I'm curious to know, with your raw vegan product line, where can people find it? Is it in stores? Is it something that they order online that gets delivered to them? I'm picturing like possibly meals that you make for people in advance that they can order, or how does that process go about? Because you have real meals. These aren't like microwavable meals. These are like real delicious fine dining that you're providing for people.
Yeah, I teach people how to do it themselves. So I do a lot of workshops. And for example, I come into your home. I have a program called Easy Fun Raw, how to add raw food to your diet for health and planet. And I come into people's homes. Of course, it costs money. And then I show a couple of dishes that they would like to make, and we make the dishes together and eat them together, so it becomes like a celebration. And people then go and actually have the sense that, oh, I can do this, as opposed to just seeing it on a monitor, because I have done that too. In fact, I was just recently on a TV show showing exactly how to make blueberry chocolate mousse. But it's not just that, it's a whole line of products that I created. And I have to say to that, the line of products, Johanna's Raw Foods, with the carrot crackers and the veggie burger bites and the cashew cheese and the truffles and the brownies, etc., were in over 200 stores all up and down the East Coast. But we ran out of financing for the next level up when Whole Foods wanted us, etc. So we're currently in hiatus with the product line, and we're looking for $7 million to build our own factory, which is the next step. So, but that may take another year or so, but they're definitely all just as delicious and viable as they were when I invented them. So yeah, that's the story. You can see them on my website, and I do private orders still, but it's not the store line that everybody used to get in their health food stores at the moment.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. That absolutely makes sense. And that's something that leads me to my next question. I know you were mentioning how you were in New York City. I'm curious to know what's next for you and for your growing business.
Well, now my definition is super happy body coach. And because you need not only a healthy body, but you need a happy body. So super happy body coach means that I'm going to help you get that body because that's what you need to do what you love most in your lifetime. Whatever that is, you can only function with a super happy body. And I am next taking my one-day conference entitled Happy Body, Happy Planet, talking about how not only can we heal ourselves, but we therewith also help the planet and turn climate change around. When we eat better, eat healthier, don't use the products that have too much poison on them. We all know about it. I don't want to name names. But so when we get our body healthy, we also help the planet heal. And that's what I'm taking. That's why I'm taking this conference around. I'm going to be in New Jersey on the 14th of March. Then I'm going to be in Atlanta on the 17th, in Florida, in Naples, Florida on the 21st, and then back in Atlanta again in a different area on the 28th, then in Chicago in April, and in Europe, and then in Brazil in November. And I'm really looking forward to that because I've never been there. So.
Oh my goodness, I love it. So you're also traveling through all this. I mean, you are an international business and coach. So it only makes sense that you're reaching more areas beyond the United States. So that's remarkable when you look at all that you've done in the last 17 years to build up your own company, to change the way not only you're living your life, but others as well. It's incredible. And you're traveling through it too.
Yeah. And taking the message around. I'm a traveler. I love all the different peoples. I lived in Africa for 4.5 years, was married to an African in Africa. And so all of those parts of my life, I've lived in Paris, I've lived in Germany, I've lived in Scotland, and then New York. And New York held me, I guess, the longest.
I guess so.
In and around, yes. I've lived in Los Angeles too for a little bit. So yeah, I think these days we need to think globally, and we need to act globally and interact and collaborate globally to get anything done.
And something that speaks out to me is this concept that you're in your best chapter that you speak about. This is, as you talk about with the fact your outlook on your life is that you're in your 60s, but you still have so much to do. So what's your message beyond just the fact that you have, ran a marathon and you have created your own business? Your message to others that kind of might feel like in their current chapter in life, they're stuck, they've hit a wall, they are too old, too young, too fat, too skinny, whatever barrier we put on ourselves to mentally block ourselves.
So the first step is love your body as it is now, because only from there can you transform. And then step by step, we transform into that which you want to become. And you can do that at any age. Just yesterday, I came across a gentleman who said, I'm really, really vain. I started sprinting when I was 95. And now at 97, I'm traveling around the world with all these world records because I'm the oldest, fastest sprinter.
I like that.
I'm the only one. So, and I developed a whole system called Johanna's Evolve system, and each letter stands for a different step that you need to get into that super happy body. You know, it's not just the food. Yes, the food is very important and needs to be delicious and enjoyed, and we look forward to it. But there's also, of course, the fitness, and the fitness doesn't come by itself. You need to work out. You need to practice. We need to find what you enjoy doing when you're working out. You need to relax. You need to sleep well. You need to work on your old trauma, because it is great to be in the 60s, 70s, 80s when you have so much experience, but it's only usable if you have actually overcome, or rather transformed, old trauma, old patterns of behavior. And that's another big part of the transformation. So, but everybody can do it. Everybody who feels they have some drive in them, some being in them that hasn't quite been lived, some drive for things that haven't been done, you can do it at almost any age. That's the wonderful thing, because turning this health around and turning the body around and turning the mental state around is fantastic, and life becomes exciting and joyful. And of course, why I'm saying we're doing great today in the 60s, if we want to 70s and 80s, because we not only know how to keep fit, but we also have all that experience. No generation has ever gone through so many changes as we have today. I mean, you know, when I grew up, we didn't have a car, we didn't have a phone, you know, and just coming from there to here is an incredible development.
That is such a great point that you bring up. I mean, you look at all that has changed in society, whether it be in politics or in technology or whatever it may be. You have seen and been through a lot of change in your lifestyle. So why not use that as something that fuels you and motivates you to be even, you know, willing to change and willing to do more?
Yes.
So where can our listeners follow you to keep up with you? You are beaming with positivity. I love that super happy body coach title. Where can our listeners follow you to keep up with the work you're doing as you embark on a world tour to promote and take your business and inspire others as well?
There is my website, johannasrawfoods.com. And there is my Facebook page, Johanna Sophia. There's also one for Johanna's Raw Foods. There's my Instagram, Johanna's Raw Foods, PBC. But easiest I am found when you just search Professor Johanna Sophia or Prof. Johanna Sophia, and all sorts of lectures that I've given, speeches, workshops, etc. Interviews will come up, and you can find me. So it's Johanna Sophia with a PH, not with an F. And johannasrawfoods.com is the website. And there isn't as much there as I would like there to be, but I'm always so busy traveling and doing, and my team doesn't quite keep up with everything. So, Renee, you are such an inspiration. I'm just looking at your image here. You know, you're the perfect body, the perfect, you know, the perfect smile, that you beam energy and vitality. So I want to commend you for doing this. Beautiful.
Aww, thank you so much. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. That's what the Positive Vibes Only segment is all about, bringing in personalities like yourself and people that are out innovating, changing, impacting, influencing in some way. So I thank you for all that you're doing, and for you to be able to share these life-changing moments and experiences with us. Hopefully it will motivate someone else to get up and make small change or big change or just some change in general. So thank you so much for joining our Positive Vibes Only this week. I really appreciate you taking time to do so.
Thank you for having me, Renee.